Hey, Taylor Elwood here, and today I wanted to talk about one of the recent realizations I've had about mm, the mistakes that I made in my business. And really, this realization is actually not just in relationship to this last year, though certainly it plays a role in what happened this last year, 2017, and why things went the way they did with the businesses. Um, but I realized I've been realizing in the last few weeks since I started working for someone else again that suddenly I have much better boundaries in my life around what I'm doing. Suddenly I'm writing a lot more than I have before. I've in the last 3 weeks written something every day, which has just been amazing, awesome. I've also read more books in the last 3 weeks or I've been reading more in the last 3 weeks than I usually would have before. And again, that's amazing. It's wonderful. My wife's noted that I've seemed a lot more relaxed and happy. And my conclusion isn't that it's because I'm working at a job. My conclusion is that if anything, it's because I actually have had good boundaries imposed on me. Because when I go to this job, I get two 15-minute paid breaks and I get a 1 hour lunch hour. And so during those two 15-minute breaks, I'm usually reading something that I want to read. And during the lunch hour, I'm eating lunch and I'm reading a little bit. And then afterwards, I'm writing. And so, I've had these boundaries imposed on me as a result of the job that I'm in, as opposed to anything I've chosen to do. And then, of course, when I go home at night, I go and I exercise and I meditate, and that's my conscious choice. That's kind of me imposing boundaries on myself. And then, I look over email and maybe I end up doing a bit of work for a while, but then at some point, I've got to eat dinner and I've got other things I need to do or want to do. And so again, it's just kind of really stood out to me that basically I've had some good boundaries imposed upon me as a result of the work, and I'm starting to work on improving my own boundaries when it comes to my business and life. So I know I'm not the only business owner who's done this. I'm sure that you've done it as well, if you're watching this video at one time or another. I would say that most business owners, if not all of them, pretty much have poor boundaries when it comes to knowing how to step outside of their business and enjoy their life. And it's kind of sad because if you think about it, the reason why we go into business is to do something that we love, but it's also to take control of our lives. So what does that say when, if anything, the business ends up taking over our lives? I would say in 2017 that this happened. This really kind of came into sharp focus because pretty much a lot of the time of the day was so focused on trying to get things to work and not having them work and getting frustrated and everything else. And it just kind of consumed my life. It took over everything that I did. And I think that happens sometimes. But even when your business is running well, a business can tend to take over. Now, some people will say, well, okay, that's great, Taylor, but there's no such thing as work-life balance. And that's what this sounds like. And you're just trying to cram work-life balance down our throats. You know what? I'm not trying to cram work-life balance down your throat. I get it. Some people don't believe in work-life balance. What I'm trying to tell you is that you need to have boundaries in your life. Boundaries around when you work and boundaries around when you do other things that enrich your life and nourish you and help you to do the work better. If you want to call that work-life balance, you can. I don't know that I would really call it that. I think it really just comes down to understanding that you need to have boundaries and limitations set up in order to protect yourself and to protect your business. Otherwise, what ends up happening is your business takes over your life. And when your business takes over your life, it starts to kill the business because you don't enjoy it. You're having to do all this stuff, and at a certain point, you start to resent it. I mean, certainly I did. the reason that I've been so relaxed in the last few weeks is because I've had boundaries put into place that have forced me to not spend every waking moment on my business. And if anything, I mean, there's some nights I come home and I don't do anything with business stuff. Or I only do, I only spend maybe an hour on business stuff because I've got other things I want to do. And I think that's really healthy and good. I just think it's sad that it took me having to go get a job to get to this realization. But there you go. And what it makes me realize is that if I go back into doing business full time, which I think ultimately is what I will try to do, because it is something I want to do. I just want to do it a lot more successfully. And I actually think I found the right resource to help me with that, which I'll talk about in a moment. But I think that when I go back in, one of the things I'm going to have to do is impose those boundaries on myself. And I've already been thinking about this a bit. And one of the things I've been thinking about is I really need to have a lunch hour. An hour where I eat lunch and I also don't work on my business. I can read, I can play a video game, I can watch a TV show, but I can't work on my business then. The other realization I've had is that I need to definitely continue to create and cultivate sacred time for my mind and my body. I was already doing that anyway. I mean, I think that's the one thing I really got right this year, is that I actually made time to exercise and meditate regularly. But I want to continue that. And one of the realizations I've come away with is that as a result, the work I do has to be really, from a business, has to be really focused. It has to be high value. It has to be accomplishing something. But what makes that high value isn't necessarily just like how many conversions I get or something like that. It's, am I operating from a place of zone of genius? Am I operating from the right place with what I'm doing? Or am I operating from a place where I'm stressing myself out because of all the things that I think I should be doing, but instead I'm doing other things that I really don't want to do and could just hand off to someone else? It's that realization right there and of itself is so valuable to me, because I look at how many times I was doing stuff that I really didn't want to be doing, but I felt like I had to do it. And I set myself up for failure just with that alone, because, it took away the joy. But part of it was that I wasn't operating from a place of awareness around what is essential. What should I be doing that is essential? What should I be doing that is going to really speak to my strengths? And so, I've consequently, along with setting up those boundaries around my time, it's also setting up boundaries around the activities that I do in my business. Like I feel like this is actually one of my strengths. When I do videos and I'm talking with you and presenting, that's one of my strengths. It's an opportunity for interaction. It's an opportunity to connect with you. It's an opportunity to hopefully hear back from you and share with you and things along those lines. So that's a good thing. That's a strength that I want to continue to work with. But I think that, when I look back on some other things, like when I was spending tons and tons of time, rewriting emails, that's really not one of my strengths. I mean, I'm a great writer, but if I'm spending all my time revising material, that's not very helpful. Or if I'm spending time creating lots of free material, again, that's not really helpful. I would say one of my other realizations is that I definitely created way too much free material in this past year, and it ended up taking on a life of its own, and it didn't really produce the results I was hoping for. And the lesson there is that, you have to have good boundaries around that. Like, what are your boundaries around the free material that you create versus the paid material? So, these are all really good things. And as I mentioned earlier, I think I found a resource, but one of the decisions that my wife and I came to, we ended up talking about it, is we're like, yeah, this person, this resource is the right person / resource to work with, but this isn't the right time. And my wife said to me, she's like, the reason why I think it's not the right time, I told her my reason. I said, well, our finances, and she's like, yeah, but if this was the right time, I'd be willing to go down that with you. I'd trust you on that. She said, the reason I think it's not the right time is because you're still in a place of recovery. You're still in a place where you're figuring out what went wrong, and you're still in a place where you're looking at things. You're still in a place, honestly, where you've just finally gotten to a place where you're relaxed and happier. And she's right. And I realize that's the real reason why I'm not ready to do the work right now. I still need the time to rest and recover and reflect and have realizations like the one I'm having right now. It's like someone else said to me, they're like, you're going to have realizations where you're going to have a spark, and it's going to, you're going to be like, yeah, that's going to get me thinking. And then you're going to be like, oh, but that first realization in and of itself isn't going to be where you need to be. And that's very much where the process is. So again, it's about setting up good boundaries. It's about trusting those boundaries. And I think as business owners, we really struggle with that sometimes, because, we're told that we have to grow the business. We have to make it successful. And so we run ourselves into the ground trying to do that. And in the end, we really take away from the effectiveness of our lives and our business and everything else. So, in this video, I'm making this commitment to myself, and I'm making it to you. I'm going to practice better boundaries. And so right now, that boundary is I'm going to continue to be in a place where I'm just allowing myself to reflect and grow and be present with my business where it is, instead of trying to force myself to start working on it again. I'm going to let those realizations come in, and when the time is right, that's when I'll start working with the person that I found. That's when I'll start to, that's when I'll be able to take these realizations and start to turn them into something dynamic and awesome and amazing that will help people out. I'm not there right now, but hopefully this video helps you regardless. And the way that I hope it helps you is that it helps you to draw some good boundaries in your own life, with your business. Really just take a good hard look at your business. Is your business taking over your life? Do you feel like you can't make time for the activities that you enjoy and do? If your answer is yes to that, then it's time to take a long, thoughtful pause and really ask yourself if that's the way you want to continue to do things. And I want to be very clear here. This boundary issue happens with both in cases where the businesses aren't doing that great, in cases where the businesses are doing amazing. I've seen it with people who've been doing great with their business, and I've seen it with people who aren't doing great with their business. And either way, it leads to burnout. And I don't want that for you. And really, because I'm in a place of burnout, let me tell you, it's not fun. I'm doing a lot of work and a lot of realization and all that other good stuff, but it's not fun to be here. But it is where I need to be, and I accept that. And it's all about moving forward with where things are. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. And I'll catch you later. Take care and have a good day.